Yes. Yes, I'm a humanist. Yes, I connect with the earth. Yes, I feel my purpose is to keep connecting. Yes, I feel my purpose is to keep connecting so I can grow, keep learning, keep processing, keep reflecting in order to grow. Yes, I believe I'm a spirit having a human experience. But yet, at times I feel pressure. I feel underrepresented at times, a sense of feeling judged, a sense of feeling othered, a sense I don't belong. It started with a label. I'm going to take you back to my school days. Picture this, a young black girl with cane row in her hair, of a majority of white boys and white girls. No black or brown teaching assistants, no black or brown teachers. I love to draw and I love to doodle. I want you to think about this young black girl in this all-white environment. As I look back to this quite white working class area, and I absorb and take myself into this energy, I remember that I used to just love getting lost in stories. I got lost in the whole imagination and the excitement of stories, and I loved reading alone. But there's one thing that I didn't like, and that was reading out loud. Whenever I read out loud, I would get clammy hands, and I would get really, really hot. And I'd get a little bit of anxiety and think, oh my God, I don't want to read out loud because they're all looking at me. And then I would just want to escape and just lose myself so I could read on my own. But I did struggle whenever I read out loud. I struggled with my words and I would stutter a little bit. My teacher was very concerned and turned around and labelled me dyslexic. When I was labelled dyslexic, I felt this kind of sense of not belonging. I felt like I wasn't good enough, and it really affected my confidence. And now there's not as much, back then there wasn't as much research as there is now for me to hit back on. Outside of school, I loved to dance. I loved movement, and I loved drama. And I just immersed myself in the movement. Whenever I danced, I felt like I was in my own world, a sense of freedom, a sense of love. I just loved it. I loved to dance. And I also loved drama. And when I did drama, I used to learn my lines really, really, really quickly so I wouldn't have to go through the process of reading out loud. I had to know my lines. Performing arts saved me. It helped me to build up my confidence, and it helped me really to connect. So even though I had this label of dyslexia, I went on and I progressed to university. And when I was at university, I wrote an essay, and I did very, very, very well. And I went up to my teacher, and I said, the grade can't be right, because I had no kind of confidence in my academic abilities. I thought, this can't be right. You know, I'm dyslexic. There's no way that this is my grade. Teacher turned around and said to me, it was a really well-written essay, but I couldn't accept it. Teacher took me aside and said, Tanya, I want you to do a test. So I did a test. When I did a test, I discovered that I wasn't dyslexic. This label had affected me. This label had affected my confidence. For the last 6 years of my education, it had affected my performance. It was such a relief to find out that I wasn't dyslexic. And I teach drama now. As an adult, I teach drama. And I hate this whole idea of labels. When I teach, I can see the labels on the register. I can see dyslexia, I can see ADHD. You can see all these labels. But I thought, I'm going to forget about these labels. I just want to connect with the child. I want to connect with the person. I want to see what that child's about. And I want to put the label to one side because I knew for myself how a label can affect me. Maybe if my teachers knew then what I knew now, they would have treated me different. Maybe they wouldn't have judged me. I want to explore this idea of labels. Why now? Why so many? I'm not going to stop listening. I'm not going to stop challenging labels. Why labels? Why now? Why so many? Why so many? We have so many labels, and it's just too much. It's almost overwhelming. I feel that labels can influence our opinions or enhance our opinions on others. It's so insightful because I do feel like labels can affect our confidence. Misdiagnosis can affect one's growth. My label started when I was young, but then it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. At college and university, I felt comfortable to play any role, from Molière to Shakespeare. Then I entered the world of casting, the world of bias, gender bias, racial bias, heuristic bias, ageism bias, conformity bias, doodle bias, dyslexic bias, bias on anything, the list goes on. And when we think about this whole idea of bias and what I have experienced, it really can affect people. I have experienced being ignored when I've made a valid point. And I'm sure the majority of you have probably experienced that too. I've experienced being called paranoid when I've attempted to address a form of bias. I've been called a secretary when I run my own company. I've experienced all of this. Bias, 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 bias. But when I think about it, it all starts with how you see me. Because when you look at me, you see a black female. Look at me. Black female. Black female, black female, black female. This is repeated and repeated and repeated. But let's look at those two words, black and female. Both associated. Thank you very much, darling. Okay, both associated with a bias. Both those words, black and female, create a bias. I want you to think about, when you look at someone, how you may be judging them, because we all do it. We all make these judgments all the time. And when you look at that, I want you to explore that, and I want you to look deeper. Because I feel that when we start to look deeper, we can see things from a different perspective. I started to understand that this word bias could mean limitations. But then I could hear my mother's voice saying to me, do not allow the bias to consume you. Rise above it, connect with the people around you, and you will flourish. I thought about that. I thought about that connection, because that's what it's about, yeah? Connecting with people, connecting with each other. If we just push that bias, leave the bias at the door, we can think about how we connect and how we can flourish together. I often hear people say, and we all hear it, It's because I'm black. It's because I'm female. It's because I'm gay. It's just because. We hear that all the time. It's just because. Maybe it is because. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe we're so consumed with this whole idea of bias that the bias becomes a routine. And this routine is judgment, but just becomes unconscious, but almost normalized, because we normalize things. As humans, we make judgments. We make judgments every day. Sometimes they're good judgments, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're superficial. We do that a lot, don't we? Yeah? But when we see each other, we judge them. So today you're looking at me. We've addressed the black female, let's address the rest. So when you see me, you see my colour, you see my gender, you see my size, you see my dreadlocks. Now, I see me. When you talk to me, you hear me. When you get to know me, you value me. The knowing is key. Just think about that. I love that line. I just have to say it again. The knowing is key. Coming back to labels and how they impact us, moving forward, I just want us all to, rather than look at the labels, celebrate the human being, celebrate the person that's in front of us. I was put in box of the polite doodler. You know, I was put in that box of the polite doodler who wasn't concentrated in class. What if we thought about who, as a collective, we are going to label today and how that's going to impact another person? But then stop and think. We are all spirits having a human experience. And we are here to connect together and to flourish. Then I just want to leave you with one thing. Because I feel a sense of responsibility to speak my truth, share this awareness, and speak to my difference. Thank you.